welcome to the Chirp YouTube channel. My name is Christy, and I am your friendly online speech-language pathologist and specialist in children's communication development, which includes behavior, because behavior is a type of communication. Welcome back to the Chirp YouTube channel, and welcome to 2026. This video is going to be helping you if you are wondering if your child is developing typically. Whether or not our children are developing typically does not affect how much we love them or that we are proud of them. It does not affect how worthy they are as human beings. What it does affect is how independent they might be able to be down the line, how their social relationships might thrive or maybe not, how easily they might find it, to communicate or to get their wants and needs met, how easy they might find it to self-soothe, to be regulated enough to be able to learn and relate to other human beings. These things are all very important, and children can get off track very, very early in some of these areas. So we are going to talk about some typical milestones today, and in upcoming videos, I'm going to talk about different ways that we can help kids when we notice that they might be slightly off track. Ways that we can find the right people to help, and ways that we as family members can help them at home. Because a professional cannot fix your child, a professional can simply help to advise you and to help your child get in the habit of better communication or of more consistent behavior. But it needs to be throughout the child's entire life that these exercises are practiced. First of all, let's talk about the fact that I am not a specialist in typical children's development. I'm a specialist in atypical children's development because the kids that I work with are not typically developing. I am a speech-language pathologist. I help kids who are slightly off track, sometimes more off track than others, when it comes to their communication development, when it comes to their behavior development. And so, I don't often work with typically developing kids. Therefore, it's a little difficult for me to talk about what's typical. Thankfully, there are professional organizations, such as my own professional organization, the American Speech-Language Hearing Association, or ASHA, who write these milestones down for us so that we know this should happen then, this should happen then, and if it doesn't, here are ways to help. Here are people to contact, and here are things I can do at home that will help my child learn these skills. Because sometimes when something is different in the brain, children need more intentional teaching. Many children learn communication simply from being immersed in a communicative soup, the soup that is around us as we are developing. But some children do not learn as easily from this soup. Perhaps they have a receptive language delay. Perhaps they have an expressive language delay. Receptive is what goes in, expressive is what comes out. Perhaps they have such significant sensory needs that all sound feels too loud, or they crave sensory information into their bodies so strongly that without it, they can't attend to the social world around them and therefore learn from it. There are lots of different reasons why children can be delayed. It does not mean that your child has a low IQ or that your child will never be functional or that your child will live with you forever. Some of these things might be true. We can't know that at this point. We don't know what's going on there until we find out. And if you have concerns in any of these areas that I'm going to talk through, or any other areas, get it assessed. It's not going to harm you. What harms you is not knowing and missing the opportunity of these very short windows of time in a child's life where they are building the most new neuronal connections, which is birth to 3. That is the time when the most new connections are being built between neurons, and those are the times when we want to make sure that our children are not off track as much as possible, because if they miss that window, it takes longer. It takes longer to reach those milestones. It's not impossible, but I will tell you a story next week when we talk about the importance of early intervention. I will tell you a story where I contrast meeting a child with a severe behavior difficulty at age 3 versus meeting a child with a severe behavior difficulty at age 10. And I will explain to you what the difference was for each child and what the difference was for me and for the families. I want you to be the family that gets professionals involved and gets strategies in place at age 6 months because you notice your child isn't responding to people, rather than waiting until your child is 10 and not responding to people still. That's just sad, because many of these things we know how to address, we know how to help. The first thing that I'm going to say is, thanks to ASHA, by the age of 3 months, your child should do eye gaze with you. Your child should respond to sound. When you talk, your child should quiet down or smile. Your child should be making sounds. They won't be words by this time, but they should be sounds, cooing or bubbling or making noise. Your child should be making noise. By 6 months, your child should be laughing and giggling. Your child should follow objects or people with her eyes. Your child should continue to be verbalizing, making noises, and responding to things by making noises. By 12 months, this is 1 year, your child should be making gestures, pointing, reaching, waving, making silly faces. All these things are gestures. All of them are very important for social communication. Your child should understand a good amount of words by this point and should respond when you say something like go bye-bye or wave to sissy. And your child should begin to be making some simple words. Maybe just 1 or 2 simple words like mama or puppy, these kind of things. The most simple sounds for children to learn are the ones that you can see. P, 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 wah, 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 sounds like that. Those are the easiest sounds for kids to produce because they can see them and because these parts are the easiest to move. The further back we get in the mouth, the more challenging it becomes on a motor level. I'm going to skip to 2 years old now. So by 2 years old, 24 months, a child should be able to name some different parts of the body, should be able to put 2 words together in order to make a short phrase or sentence, such as go out, daddy come, mama sit, things like this. These are short sentences. This is how it advances, very nice and slow, but very steady. The child should be using pronouns such as me, you, mine, and the child should be using possessives. Possessives are things that have an apostrophe S, such as daddy's shoe, mama's cat, things like that. Possessives should be in the rotation by the age of 24 months. And after the first few months of life, your child should be able to self-soothe. Your child should be able to be flexible enough with her or his behavior that it is not causing hours of tantrums if she has to wear a different pair of pajamas, or if he has to drink from a different cup, or if someone touches his train. These things might be a little upsetting, but they should not cause huge meltdowns. Children should be able to be managing themselves behaviorally very early in life. And of course, there will be some peaks and valleys when it comes to development, because as preschoolers, 2-year-olds, for example, develop into where they have the cognitive ability to realize they don't want something or they don't like something, but they don't have the communication ability to explain why they don't like it, we can have some behavior challenges. But for the most part, for example, this last weekend at church, where I run a special needs program, I was called into the preschool program to assess a new friend who was screaming and crying and kicking and trying to escape because he was told that he needed to put a car away. And they talked him through it and talked him through it again, and he could not adjust to putting the car away. And this was not a one-time occurrence, which is why I was called to observe again. I've observed this child in the past. It is unusual. It's typical for a child to be upset, especially if there was lack of sleep, or he didn't have breakfast that morning, or there's a family drama happening behind the scenes we don't know about. But typically, a 4-year-old child should be able to put a car away and not be kicking, screaming, yelling, and trying to run away. That's an atypical response to a situation. And that is equally concerning as far as development to a 4-year-old who doesn't speak, because behaviors like that prevent children from learning. They prevent children from having the same access to social relationships that a child would have if he were calm. And social relationships are where a lot of learning takes place. So we don't want kids to miss out on that. Now, I will link below the website where ASHA talks through all of these developmental milestones in more detail. And I will also link other websites down below in this video so that you can see different behavioral milestones that children should be meeting by certain ages. And there will also be some different ways to work on these things at home. I have a lot of book recommendations, although I know people are not necessarily reading as much as we used to. But I do encourage reading when it is going to enrich our brains. And I also have other websites that have similar information in shorter chunks. But don't hesitate to subscribe and come back for the next video, because we will be talking about the importance of early intervention and ways that you can get professional help for your child, as well as helping your child at home. There are professionals who come into your home, I used to do this, and help set up systems that will help your child to manage herself better, learn communication more effectively. We do all sorts of very helpful things. And also, of course, there are programs in schools that help kids who have some of the skills maybe just didn't develop, and they need some more support in those areas. So don't hesitate to come back. Subscribing will help you make sure not to forget. And I will see you next time. Thanks for being here. Bye.